From each happily ever after, every wish upon a star. Let's break down the movies that shaped who we are. From memory lane to now and everything in between. The most famous of films to the ones we've never seen. Decade by decade, all the times we laughed and cried. And with a little pixie dust, they will all take flight. Reliving the feelings, and we're trying our very best. And if they mean the same to you, please be our guest. So hop aboard, we would love to have you as we hang with a certain mouth, the whole gang too. If you love nostalgia stuff, we hope this does the trick. Thanks for joining us as we deep dive the magic.
Hi, and welcome back to the Deep Diving the Magic podcast. I'm KJ.
And I'm Jeffrey. And we are back today with the 84th Disney feature-length film, a film from July the 19th of 1967. It is a film called The Gnome-Mobile.
Mm-hmm.
Gnome-Mobile is a live-action film. It's based on a 1936 book called The Gnome-Mobile by Upton Sinclair. It is also one of the final films that was personally supervised by Mr. Walt Disney, which we all know he passed away a few films ago. Again, there's a lot of familiar faces, which has kind of been like the norm for the films that we've watched lately. There's a lot of familiar faces that are all doing the same films, including the children in this film are played by the Banks children from Mary Poppins, quite famously. And this is our friend Edwin's final film, Mr. Laughing himself. This is his final film. So the Mad Hatter has hung up his hat, some would say.
Not quite yet.
Not quite after this film.
Yes.
But would you like to start us off with a synopsis about the Gnome-Mobile?
In the redwood forests of California, a multi-millionaire lumberman and his two young grandchildren encounter two gnomes who are supposedly the last of their kind.
Do you think that this guy is Mrs. Banks' father? Because this is their grandfather. We met their parents. Whatever. That's a rabbit hole. That's a deep dive for a different deep dive.
No, because they're not from London.
No, they're not. These are some talented actors. All right. Any opening thoughts about the Gnome-Mobile, or any facts that you want to jump in the beginning or say it to the end or whatever?
Yes. So, many of the same special effects that were used for this movie had also been used in the earlier film that we discussed, Darby O'Gill and the Little People.
Remember how impressed we were with that film, like CGI wise, with the horse and this force perspective and stuff. Yeah. So there you
go. And like you said, Edwin's final film role was this movie. He sadly died of throat cancer in Beverly Hills.
I think it was caused because he laughed so much.
California on June 19th, 1966, almost a year before the film was released.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, because I feel like, didn't we see him smoking in other films? I feel like he was smoking on the
Mad Hatter.
The porch scene of what was the movie about the geese?
Those Calloway's.
Yeah, I feel like
he was laughing a lot in that film.
Yeah, but I feel like he was smoking outside.
We all know what happened to Walt Disney and smoking.
So, anyway, and then, as you mentioned, Garber and Dotrice, who had played brother and sister 3 years earlier in Mary Poppins, are here again playing siblings once more. And when the film kicks off,
they were also in.
They were dubbed the Mary Poppins Kids.
Mary Poppins Kids. Love it.
Yeah. So, I did discover when I was looking stuff up about this that Dotrice, I think, is still alive.
He died young.
Garber died at 21.
Yeah, because like they talk about it in like this Mary Poppins documentary that I watched. That like
Yeah, I didn't know that.
one of like her like biggest regrets in life is that she didn't stay close to him.
I mean, how could she?
So I mean,
Anyway,
yeah, he's much younger than 21 here. So
yeah. So the last film referenced the Golden Gate Bridge at the end, and this one has it in the background in the beginning.
I wrote that. I also wrote that. I said that the first scene or the second scene, because the first scene is the car driving through the woods, but the car is driving to Mulrooney Lumber building, which we can see the Golden Gate Bridge, which we learned in the last movie was constructed by Bullwick Griffin.
I'm not gonna lie. The opening of the scene where the car's driving down the road kind of made me feel car sick.
Strap in, my friend. Strap in. Have you seen this film?
I didn't feel that way later, but I did feel that way like in the beginning, and I don't know why. I guess it's because it was a curvy road. I don't know. Anyway, I was just like, oh dear Lord.
So the film does, and I don't know, I'll pass it over to you, but just to reiterate what we just discussed, the film does start with the title car. It's like a, I don't know what kind of car it is.
It is a
Rolls
Royce Phantom 2.
So like a fancy car is driving through the woods.
1930, and it's customized.
It's driving through the woods, and it arrives at Mulrooney Lumber. It's like a giant building, which is where we see the Golden Gate Bridge out the window. And now I'm going to turn it over to you to kick us off about the Gnome-Mobile.
All right, so the story opens up with the children's grandfather, DJ Mulrooney, a well-known executive officer of the timber trading company. So keep that in mind because it's going to come into a very big important part later. So Mulrooney is basically this super, super rich man. And
if I was a rich man,
he is going to sell.
That's not Disney. Sorry.
Okay. He is going to sell 50,000 acres of timberlands. What his plan is to do, but first he's going to go pick up his grandkids.
He has a very important.
Yeah, they're coming to visit him
from London because they're the Banks kids. No, I'm just kidding.
Anyway. So before this, he has a conversation with the company's head of security, which is this guy named Ralph Yarby, which we'll just refer to as Yarby from now on. And he discussed how he had purchased this car after DJ had earned his first $1 million. Like, this car is like one of his prized possessions.
Just gonna sing about it.
So he goes to the airport, picks up the grandchildren. We find out that they are Elizabeth and Rodney.
Yep, Elizabeth and Rodney.
That's weird. Anyway.
Sorry, our Amazon device decided to join the party for a second there. So go ahead.
Yeah. So they're going to accompany him on his trip to Seattle. So while they're traveling from San Francisco up to Seattle, they take a detour in, like, I guess what's going to later become Redwood National Park. But you see a lot of sequoias. And they're going to have a picnic.
But before that, he does sing a song about his car.
He does. I didn't like the song, so I didn't really talk about it. But Jeff,
it's kind of like the crux of the like.
Do you want to talk about it?
No, he sings a song about how much he loves his car.
So anyway, he sings this song. It has a catchy little tune to it. I didn't like the song, so I didn't talk about it. Sorry. Yeah. It does come up later with different words, but the same tune. The redub of the same tune was actually better than the beginning of it.
So he loves his car. It's kind of like the drummer of the Beatles. He loves his car.
Okay.
So no, is that correct? No, the drummer of Queen loves his car.
I was gonna say,
I
don't think Ringo loves his
the drummer of Queen
much.
loves his car. You're right.
Okay. So anyway, they stop in the Redwood Forest, and they're gonna have a picnic
at a place named after the grandfather.
Yes. So they're setting up the picnic stuff. The granddaughter starts to kind of walk off on her own, just exploring the woods. And she's kind of looking around at everything in this area while the grandfather and the grandson are going through the basket, and the grandson just keeps complaining that there's no peanut butter and jelly.
I confirmed. It is Roger Taylor's car and not Ringo Starr's car. Okay. Sorry, my apologies. Okay. I knew that. Sorry, go ahead.
Anyway, so while she's out exploring, she happens to stumble upon a gnome named
The
Jasper.
animals are talking to this gnome, yeah.
Yeah. And there is a raccoon, an owl, and there's something else that was talking to him. Some other woodland creature that was talking to the gnome. But then the gnome kind of like talks to her. And then
This gnome is played by Canoe
yeah,
from
that darn cat.
that no.
Yes.
Yes.
That darn cat. Anyway.
Which recently got booted off my list. Sorry, go ahead. Now you know what it's like. Go ahead.
Anyway, so Jasper is talking to the granddaughter. I've already forgot her name. Somewhere I'll find it again. Elizabeth. I wanted to say her name was Catherine, but I was like, that's not right. Anyway, so Jasper tells her he's a gnome and she's a dudine.
A dudine.
And he's never talked to a dudine before.
But they conveniently speak the same language, which they discuss.
Yeah. So anyway, she wants to show her grandfather, and then when she comes back through, she can't find him. She starts crying. The grandfather's like, well, maybe you didn't see him. Maybe you saw him with your eyes up here. And he points to her head, and it's in your imagination. And she's like, no, I did see him. And then you see Jasper with the forest creatures again, and he is like having bad thoughts. Like, I don't want them to like not believe her because she really did see me, but at the same time, do I trust the Dudines? I don't know. So then finally he says something after they start to walk away, and then they're all kind of like, who are you? Where did you come from? And then he waits a while again, and then he starts speaking again. And then that's kind of when he shows himself to the grandfather, and the grandfather like introduces himself. And then so Jasper at that point tells him that he's got a terrible problem. And then they find out that the terrible problem is Jasper has a grandfather that we later find out is named Nobby, and he has started to, I guess, fade.
Become invisible.
Yeah, and then DJ, the grandfather, at that point says, well, it sounds like maybe he's supposed to live forever, so it sounds like he's just kind of lost his will to go on if he's fading.
Correct words were see-through. It was becoming see-through.
Yeah.
And they are the only two gnomes that they know left.
Okay.
That's also why that's why he's upset and the grandmother's upset. So yep.
Because he can't get married and go on. So anyway, DJ had discussed like he's basically lost his will to live, and that's why he's fading and becoming see-through. And then we find out that the grandfather basically just wants Jasper to be able to find a bride before he dies. And he doesn't want him to be alone. And then he finds out that Jasper's friends that he brought with him are Dudines, and then all of a sudden he is completely not see-through anymore, and he is upset and tells Jasper, you're not supposed to trust Dudines, they'll never help us, and he has nothing but bad things to say about them.
There is no such thing as a different Dudine.
And then DJ is trying to tell him, well, we came here to help. Like, we'll help. And then he's like, okay. So finally they talk Nobby and Jasper into going with them. And they all leave together. So then they're driving down the road, and then you've got Jasper and Nobby sitting in the back, And then the kids start singing this little song again that we've heard before, but they changed the words around. And now the car is known as the Gnome-Mobile.
They are singing about how much they love the Gnome-Mobile.
Yes, the Gnome-Mobile, the Gnome-Mobile. Anyway, so then Nobby's talking in the back about his dislike of humans and
Dudes.
okay. Anyway, dudes are humans. So he's talking about his dislike for them and how basically um the reason why he dislikes them is because the logging damaged their forests and the livelihood of the gnomes, and basically that's the only reason why they're the only two gnomes left that they know. Um, and then he's trying to tell his story, and Jasper like kind of cuts in like Jeffrey is doing, and the grandfather Nobby says, "You don't know nothing. You were just this big."
So sorry.
Actually, he says, "You don't remember. You weren't not bigger than that." And then he just keeps talking about his story. So then Nobby starts to talk about the worst loggers ever that he had ever come in contact with were the Mulroonies.
Dun dun dun.
And then the kids start to say something, but the grandfather shuts them up. And is basically talking about how, yes, I agree with Nobby, like that shouldn't have been tolerated, da da da. And then they pull over at like this hotel cabiny place to stay the night. And then
There's a car outside. Are you gonna touch on that?
yeah.
Okay.
So he tells them to get in the picnic basket and then he's going to carry them in and then they're going to stay there for the night and then keep on their journey the next day. So they get in the basket. They're getting out of the car because obviously they don't want any more dudings to see the gnomes. Then this weird looking truck pulls up that was basically, I think it was called a freak show.
The Academy of Fantastic Freaks.
Yes. Um,
Quobog or something. Quobog's Academy of Fantastic Freaks.
yeah. I feel like I wrote something about that.
So this truck pulls up while you're trying to find your thing, and it's like this guy from
I guess I didn't.
the Academy of Fantastic Freaks who's like postering and like flyering for his show at the hotel. He's like inside, he's like hanging up posters, he's like taking things down, putting down flyers and stuff like that. So back to you.
I swear I wrote something down, but maybe I just kind of skipped over it.
The truck side of the Academy of Fantastic Freaks.
All right. So they get out of the car, they're carrying the gnomes in, and the gnomes are making noise inside, and the guy that Horatio Quaxton, the freak show owner,
Not Robin Quaxton.
I did write his name down, Horatio. Is kind of like intrigued by the noise that's coming out of this little picnic basket, and the grandfather basically tells the guy at the check-in desk, "Oh no, they're not dogs," because they're like, "Oh, you can't have dogs stay here." And he was like, "Well, they're not dogs, they're Abyssinian geese."
They're geese, yeah.
And they're like, "Well, sir, you can't have pets here." He's like, "Oh, they're not pets, they're prized possessions."
And he's rich enough to get whatever.
And then they kind of just let them go off. And
but
then
this dude's like intrigued by what he's hearing.
So he keeps following them. And then they get in the cabin, and then when well, actually, no, not yet. So they're checking in the cabin, and then the guy's like basically giving him the keys or whatever to the cabin, and he was like, "Yes, oh, Mulrooney," and then Nobby loses it in the picnic basket, and it's kind of like when he just grabs the picnic basket and heads back to the cabin with the kids, and then they're being followed, but they don't know they're being followed by Horatio, who's very intrigued by what is going on. And then in the cabin, basically DJ and Nobby get into a big disagreement. And he's like, "You know what? I'm just taking you back now. Like I was trying to help. I'm not going to worry about it. We're just going to take you back." And then he talks about how he's got to go get gas in the car. So Jack's like, well, let me go with you. So then Jack goes. So basically, you have the two gnomes and the sister still sitting in there in the cabin, and they're watching TV. And Jasper is like, so you should watch this. I mean, I think it'll brighten your spirits up because they were talking about how nice the redwood forest is and the sequoias and how these trees are just magnificent. And then dun dun dun,
Dun,
how the
dun, dun.
lumberjacks come in, and then Nobby loses it again. So then you get a phone call to the room, and we find out that there's been an accident, is what this girl is being told. And she doesn't know it's Horatio, but Horatio has called and told her there's been an accident. So she runs out to find her grandfather, and then she leaves Jasper and Nobby alone, and then they're kidnapped by Horatio. So this is when she finds out that um, her grandfather and Jack were not in an accident, because she was like, "Oh, are you guys okay?" And you're like, "What are you talking about?" And she was like, "I got a phone call." And then when they go back to the cabin, they find out that they're not there. And then he was like, "Oh no." And then the kid's like, "We got to call the police." And he said, "No, the last people we want to call is the police, because then like the newspapers and stuff will get a hold of this. And we can't do that because we promised Nobby that the Dudings wouldn't know about them." So he's like, this is a job for my security. So he calls Yarby and he starts telling him, like, they're gone. I can't find them. We've got to find them. And he's like, oh my God, the kids are gone. He's like, no, not the kids.
The lives.
Yeah, like he's just basically talking about how they're gone. I can't find them. Da, da, da. We got to find them. Oh, have you called the police? No, this is not a job for the police. And he's like, oh yeah, the tabloids and stuff will get a hold of this. And he was like, yeah, you got to help me find them. And then he's like, well, where's the last place you saw the kids? And he's like, it's not the kids. The kids are here with me. Um, and basically he's telling about the gnomes. And then ironically, Yarby was at the doctor's office, and the doctor, he's like having him listen to this. And that's when the doctor, when he gets off the phone, he's like, listen, like he doesn't need that. He actually needs psychiatrist help. Like, gnomes, really, Yarby? So unfortunately for Mr. DJ, he gets admitted to a psychiatric hospital.
Because they're like, we have somebody for you to talk to who's a pro at this,
Yeah.
but really it's this psychiatrist.
And he's talking about the gnomes and how they really exist, and I've got to help them. And then they're like, yeah, did you see them with your eyes up here? And he's like, no, I see what this is. You guys think I'm crazy, but I'm not. And basically, he gets admitted to this hospital, and Yarby is going to be able to stay in the room beside him. So Yarby calls some lady that has the kids. I guess she also works for DJ. I don't know. So anyway, she's got the kids. He calls. The kids get on the phone and overhear this conversation. And he's like, yeah, we're here. I don't know how long we'll be here. But DJ is going to stay here, and they're going to let me stay in the room beside him until he gets out. And then I'll let you know where it's coming from there. And then the kids like quickly hang up the phone and go act like they're watching TV again. And then the lady comes in and they're like, oh, we're tired. We're tired. It's time to go to bed. And she's like, I think that sounds like a good idea. So they act like they're going to sleep, and they sneak out. Dun, dun, dun. And
Dun,
then
dun, dun.
they sneak out to the Gnome-Mobile.
They drive the car.
They are too short to drive the car, so they have to drive the car together. So Rodney is steering while Elizabeth is in the floorboard doing
Pushing the
whatever
pedals.
pedal he tells her to.
Teamwork. They learned that from Mrs. Banks.
Yeah, that's not even so. But anyway, they back into another vehicle. Then they drive through some bushes. It's a wild adventure. I'm sure DJ would not be happy about how they're driving their car. So anyway, they get to the hospital. Rodney almost gets busted on the roof because he tells Elizabeth to stay there and I'm going to find grandfather. And she's like, well, how are you going to find him? And he's like, I'll find him by his snore. Nobody else can snore like him.
Nobody snores like grandfather.
So he sneaks around. He almost gets busted by a barking dog. And then the security guard sushes the dog and tells him there's nothing. How many times do you think a trained security dog is just going to bark at nothing?
This time?
So anyway, Rodney does find his grandfather by his snore. And then Rodney and Elizabeth help him escape. And Rodney had basically brought some tools with him to cut the bars off the window so that way the grandfather could get out. So then one of the orderlies that's sitting outside of DJ's room is listening to him snore. And then
it's the dude from the Absent-Minded Professor.
Yeah. No.
Yes, it is.
Well,
it's
Merlin Jones.
You're right, it is Merlin Jones. It's the dude from Merlin Jones.
And then Monkey's uncle.
Yeah.
So he's back. He's the orderly. He's sitting outside the room to make sure this guy's safe. And he's like listening to how loud this guy snores. And then all of a sudden you hear the snore, but it obviously is coming from two people. How this guy don't notice that, I don't know, but it's obviously two people snoring. And so they're trying to do this loudly while they're sawing through the bar on the window. They finally get through the bar, but it is so loud. And it sounds like a bed squeaking. I don't know why he wouldn't have looked in, but anyway, he doesn't look in. And he gets up, pulls out some cotton balls out of a first aid kit on the wall, and then shoves them in his ears, and then lays back down and just kind of goes to sleep. They cut through the bar. Then we find out that the grandfather back in the day could have easily been at a bar like this, so he does, which is very impressive. He bends the metal bar down so he can get out. They're still making the snoring noises while he's trying to slip out.
He's dressed like in his
his
intake gown, I guess.
PJs. He's in his PJs. They didn't look like an actual hospital PJs because I want to say I thought they had his initials.
No, it had the logo.
Oh, so I guess it was the hospital's logo, but
and it was
I thought it wasn't his initials.
It wasn't like pajamas.
I thought it was like his pajamas because I thought they were like fancy pajamas.
No. It had like the hospital's logo on it, and it was like a long like shirt, like a nightgowny shirt. It wasn't like like what Ebenezer Scrooge went on his adventures in. Not like
Well, it wasn't your average hospital gown. So anyway, he sneaks out. I thought it was funny when he's going out the window. He's like, "Do I really sound that bad?" with his snoring. So anyway, Rodney and Elizabeth to the rescue. They climb up a tree over the fence. The grandfather is like running around the tree because he's chased by the same security dog. And all of a sudden, it's like Prison Break. There's lights showing up everywhere in the whole.
The dog yard. Like rips his pajamas.
Yeah, and then he gets over the fence and then gets into the car, and then they quickly drive off. And that's when the guy hits the alarm, and then ERB runs out, and he's like, "Oh no, DJ, you should have never done this." Dun dun dun.
Dun dun dun.
Then we find out that they have to stop and get gas still because they never got gas before. So they pull up to the gas pump. They're asking how much. He's asking the kids how much money they have, and they each only have like a little bit of change on them. And then the grandfather tells the guy at the pump, "Well, we'll take 2 gallons." So they get 2 gallons of gas and then they drive off. And after he asked them for directions, he gets directions to where they think this freak show guy will be, because at that point it's Rodney tells them, "I bet it was that guy." and I saw his signs everywhere. So somehow they kind of figure out where he would be, and then they ask for directions. They
He
get the
hit on a
directions.
very possible possibility, they said.
Yeah. So they find this cabin, and we see Jasper and Nobby there, and Jasper's trying to help get them out of the picnic basket. Finally, after enough, he gets the picnic basket open, jumps out, dumps his grandfather out, and tells them we gotta escape. And at this point, the freak show guy pulls up with food. He's coming into the cabin.
He comes in. He comes in. He just has like it's like he's like delivering food to like a table. All the food that he just got is like on like this like tray. Nothing's in a to go box. Nothing. He's just like
Gnome
drove.
burgers.
Yeah, he just like drove home with like this thing. Sorry, go ahead. It was funny.
I brought some gnome burgers, and as he realizes they're out the window at this
Mm.
point, um, so Nobby escapes, and then Jasper tells him, "Go on, I'll catch up to you later." As he's getting dragged back into the place, by this horrible Horatio. Um, Lots of madness ensues. It's just all around.
Yeah, I mean he takes Horatio's gun that's like in the holster and he shoots Horatio's hat.
Hmm. And he gets upset with that. He tries to catch him with a net. That doesn't work. And then he makes it back to the window. He's almost out the window, and then he gets caught by a fishing line.
Yeah, the dude like casts the fishing pole and catches his pants.
Yeah, and like reels him back into the house. And then you see that Jasper is holding on to like a tree branch, which is getting pulled back into the house with him until he finally has to let it go because he is back in the house. Um, but he gets super lucky because Rodney, Elizabeth, and DJ happen to pull up at this time. Um, they break into the cabin, and then the grandfather hangs up the freak show owner Horatio up on what looks like moose antlers.
Like a head bust, like on a wall.
Yes, but moose antlers.
Yeah.
There was not a head there. It was just the
No,
antlers.
there was a head there.
No, it was just the antlers.
Okay.
And he hangs them up on him. And then they tell Jasper, "Come on, let's go see if we can find Nobby." So basically, at this point, the orderlies and Yarby are trying to still find DJ. So we're back to that again. And then they're chasing the grandfather and the kids
Oh,
and Jasper.
not
And
yet. You're missing the really cool part. You're missing the gas station scene.
I have not got there yet, Jay.
No, because they don't know
I've
where they
not
are.
got there yet.
Go ahead.
So we're back to them chasing them. So they're trying to find them. They pull over at the same gas station. They're getting gas. Then they're asking the guy at the pump, they're like, "Have you happened to see an old man and two grandchildren?"
In this fancy car.
Yeah, and they're like that one? And they're like, "Yes, that's the one." They just take off. They floor it, take the gas pump with them. The poor gas attendant has gas just leaking out of the pump, and you just see the tick, tick, tick. So sad for him.
So much gas lost.
Yeah. So they're chasing after the grandfather, and the kids bring this up to grandfather. "Hey, we're being followed." And they're like, "Oh no, it looks like Yarby back there." And he's like, "Oh, well, we'll show them." Next, we know they're driving this car like Cruella. Um,
They're in the
they go
woods.
off-roading. The grandfather can do whatever he wants basically in his car, and the other car just can't hold up. Um, the hood starts flapping up and down. I don't know how they didn't hit a tree before then. They end up driving up a tree, and then they end up driving back out of a tree. And then the back wheels come off, the steering wheel comes off.
It is literally the wildest ride in the wilderness.
Yeah, pretty much. Um,
From all my Disney fans. They get the reference there. I thought that was pretty clever. Go ahead.
anyway, um, So they get stuck because at this point they can't drive the car anymore. And the grandfather drives by them and they all kind of laugh. And then Yarby sees Jasper smiling at him in the back window, like, wait, what is that? Hmm. Jasper's made himself known to the Judines. Anyway, uh, so they escape. They arrive in the woods. They find Nobby, and he is so excited to tell them that there are more gnomes. They aren't the only ones left. And then Rufus, Edwin,
Mr. Edwin.
is the Gnome King. And
You'll never guess what he's doing. He's laughing.
yes, and
Because that's what he does. He laughs.
he tells them that, oh, this is the eligible gnome. We have a lot of female gnomes.
Well, at first, all the gnomes are guys.
Yes.
So Jasper's like,
True.
really? We just did all this work and every gnome is just a dude?
Yeah, and his grandfather's so excited. He's like, oh, but there's no, well, there's no, what? And then DJ goes, what I think he's trying to say is there's no girls. And then that's when Edwin's character, Rufus, is like, oh, yes, we have plenty of girls. And that's when the grandfather goes, yeah, he's got more girls than he knows what to do with. So he basically says, this is the eligible gnome, bring out the girls. So then we find out the girls come out and he introduces them all.
Can I jump in here with another?
No, you cannot. You've done it too much today. So
welcome to my life. So
I said no.
The gnomes come.
I'm not done. So the gnomes come in, the girls, and they're dressed so much cuter than the boys. And they're all younger. There's a few young gnomes, so I don't know how they're not eligible, but he introduces them all one at a time, and they all have flower names. So now you can cut in.
So previous to all learning about their names and everything, all of the girls come running out, kind of like in that scene of Lieutenant Caruso. That's what I was going to say. This would have made way more sense if I wasn't allowed to not talk. So go ahead, back to you.
Do you want to keep going, Jeff? No, you took notes. Go ahead.
This is you. So kind of like in Robin Crusoe, where all the girls are chasing Robin, they are all making their presence known. Back to you.
Yep.
My co-host to the most. Dun, dun,
so anyway,
dun.
And then Edwin, the king of the gnomes here, comes through and introduces them all. They all have flower names. One of them in particular he talks a lot about, and it's his niece. And I really think you'll like her. And as he's going down the line, Jasper's kind of like looking at all of them. And he never says a single word until he gets to poor Violet. And then you can just see that Jasper is just caught up with her. And he's like, hi. And that's when his grandfather's like, well, grab your girl. You found her. And then that's when we find out that no, that's not how it's done in gnome culture. You know this, Nobby. So then the Gnome King talks about how we're going to have a contest. The girls have a contest, and that's how they do it. Because the she-male picks her date.
Yeah, it's not the male that picks its mate. It's the she-male who picks her date.
Yeah. So basically, the other male gnomes that are more Jasper's age get him ready for this, which they basically put him in this stuff that looks like a bunch of suds. So he's like basically covered in soap. And then they start the game. And the female that wins has to grab him and hold on to him for 7 seconds. That's how you win. But the grandfather is talking to the grandkids about how, oh, they have something similar to this. I think he said in Ireland, where
the pig.
You have to catch a pig that's coated in oil, but you have to hold on to it. Mm-hmm. So basically, same concept. The girls are going to have to grab a hold of a very slippery Jasper.
Yeah, he's slipping all over the place.
Yeah, so he's just running around trying not to get caught. And then every time he runs over by Violet, who keeps getting pushed out of the way by everybody else, and we find out she's a little clumsy. She's probably not the fastest. He keeps trying to find her, during this and escape the other girls. She keeps getting pushed out of the way. It looks like this is never going to work out for him. And then he tries to get Violet to catch him, but she keeps getting pushed away. Um, the other girls are just very aggressive and run over her all the time. But, however, finally, in this very wild chase, somehow Violet manages to nab him and count to 7. The slowest countdown to 7 I've ever seen.
It's because the dude forgets how to count. Everyone doesn't know how to count. He's like, what comes after 5?
He wasn't doing that. He did that on purpose because he wanted his niece to win. Anyway,
he was just laughing.
He wanted his niece to win. So anyway, they start pulling all the girls off because it was basically a dog pile. And then lo and behold, he had got to 7, and the one that was on the bottom holding on, poor Violet. So she wins. And they just met each other, and next thing we know, they're getting married.
It's Disney. That's what they do.
No dating. She didn't pick her date. She picked her bridegroom, and she's married now.
They are now pronounced gnome and wife, and then they kiss.
And then DJ decides that for a wedding present that he is going to gift 50,000 virgin acres of forest
in the redwoods.
As a haven for the gnomes, and basically tells all the gnomes there, anybody that wants to go with us now and start a new colony is welcome to get in the Gnome-Mobile.
3 cheers for DJ Maroney.
Then they drive off in the Gnome-Mobile in the end.
They sing the song. So like the car is full of like
gnomes
and the kids and
Dudines.
DJ. And there's
got 3 Dudines and a whole bunch of gnomes.
And they're singing the song, the Gnome-Mobile.
Mm-hmm.
And this was a fun, quirky movie. And KJ, you did a great job narrating. Good job.
Thank you.
So thoughts?
I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I was going to. We did rent this off of Prime. We could have for 80 more cents we could have bought it on Prime.
That's true.
I'm kind of sad we didn't.
Yeah, it was 80 cents more to buy.
Yeah, I think I would have watched it again.
Yeah.
It was cute. However, it does not drive its way onto my list.
So what let's do ratings first.
Do you want to go ratings?
So different than you, where you said that you liked it more than you thought, and you enjoyed it. I enjoyed it too, but I thought I was going to enjoy it so much more by like the pictures and like the name. I was like, I'm going to love this. This is
so when I saw it, I didn't think I was going to like it,
and
then I did like it way more than I thought I was going to. But I don't think it is good enough to knock off Peter Pan.
Not many are.
Anyway, so IMDb gave this a 6.4 out of 10, which was kind of my rationale of not spending the 80 more cents to buy it. However, after I watched it, I gave it an 80 or 8.
An 80 out of 10.
An 80 out of 10.
Dang, yeah.
This hits my list for number 1. I'm just kidding. An 8 out of 10. So for the 80 more cent, that's what I was thinking. The 80. We should have bought it probably because
I tried.
I did enjoy it. Well, I didn't think I was going to enjoy it because they gave it a 6.4.
So does this 80 cents its way onto your list upon a star? Then what is your list upon a star?
It did not drive its way onto my list.
Through 84 movies, speaking of 80 cents.
101 Dalmatians, The Parent Trap, Sleeping Beauty, Dumbo, Lady and the Tramp, That Darn Cat, The Three Caballeros, Moon Pilot, The Shaggy Dog, and Peter Pan.
So like I said on mine, I enjoyed it, but I thought I was going to enjoy it way more. It's fun. It's something. But my list upon a star is 101 Dalmatians, Mary Poppins, Peter Pan, Alice in Wonderland, Babes in Toyland, Pinocchio, The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, Sleeping Beauty, and our new friend, The Adventures of Bullwhip Griffin, which was a greatly fun movie. So, any other thoughts or last words about the Gnome-Mobile?
I don't think so.
I thought it was going to be way more of a musical, but the only song in the whole film was that one song. They just kept changing the words. But we have made it to the next film is film number 85, which is wild. We are at 85, which is bringing us to October of 1967. Actually, our next 2 films were released on the exact same day. But movie number 85 from October of 1967, it is a little film, a little animated film.
You might have heard of it.
An animated classic, they might say, that is entitled The Jungle Book. So we will be back next time to discuss our friend Mowgli and Baloo and Bagheera and everybody that you probably already know. But if not, well, we'll talk about it next time for The Jungle Book. We're on Instagram. We're on Spotify. We're on YouTube, where you can watch us power struggle over who's saying what here. But deep dive in the magic pod at gmail.com if you knew what a dudeen was. But again, we are back next time for movie number 85, which is The Jungle Book.
Yep. Bye, you bunch of dudeens.
Thanks for deep diving the magic.
Bye.